So it's getting pretty scary out there, huh? A little shaky ground. If I haven't said it yet. Hi, I'm Tesh. I'm a brand designer and illustrator, but I also just like to yap. Me being someone who is, on the left is almost always prepared for something to this degree. I have been ever since I was a tiny college student. um, just, always on guard and knowing that societal collapse could be a thing. Even my mom, actually, when I think about it, my mom was a prepper. Um, Not really like doomsday prepper, Y2K prepper, but like, I lived in Michigan. So my mom definitely had cans of tuna and a flashlight and, extra socks and things like that in a little knapsack underneath her bed. It was just like a to go bag. I don't think that she really talked about it with me, but I just knew that it was there. There were tornadoes, any natural disaster, anything could happen, a fire, like whatever. It's just good to be prepared. So basically, in this video, I just wanted to talk about this idea of societal collapse and how people have been doing this prepping thing, or basically just talking about like what would happen if we're in the midst of an Octavia Butler parable of the sower situation. Like what are we going to do? So, my first thought is I am very much addicted to social media, mostly just Instagram and YouTube. In YouTube, but on Instagram, I've noticed anyway in my algorithm a discourse around prepping, and prepping being very different than it was, you know, Y2K times, where you're not like necessarily building a bunker or stocking buckets of food, but just being prepared for something catastrophic to happen. And again, it doesn't have to be societal collapse, even though it feels like we're headed that way, very, very clearly headed that way. But again, in the event of a fire or a natural disaster or any number of things, what would you have? So to me, that looks like a to go bag. So if you don't know, a to go bag is basically just what it sounds like, a bag to go. It's a whole litany of things that you would have in this to go bag, but very simply, some basic supplies. So maybe, some canned items with a first aid kit. You might have an extra pair of glasses. You might have socks or an extra pair of clothes, documents, things like that, so that in case there was an emergency, you could just pick it up and go, and you wouldn't necessarily have to go and look for the things that you knew that you needed. So, yeah, that's just basically what I live near a fire station, so that always happens. Okay, she's done. So it's really important to know, like, where your important documents are, and that is one way to have your important documents readily available. Also, I follow this account called Death to Stock. They're a stock image agency of sorts, like a collective, where designers, etc., might use some of their their stock imagery. But I was on their social media, their Instagram account, and I actually got pinned in their comment section where they were talking about prepping. So I've always been very interested in what prepping can look like. So yes, having to go back, having a plan, how to meet up with your friends or family, etc. That of course is important, but knowing your neighbors is also prep to me. In the comment section, I talked about prepping can be as something as simple as getting to know your neighbors, knowing who lives around you. And I live in a complex, so there's about 12 apartments in this building. And because there's 12 apartments in this building, it's important for me anyway to know who lives in the building, what kind of people live here. So at the end of last year, I started a get together. So I literally made cute little flyers and put them on the doors and said, "Hey, I'm gonna have a couple drinks and snacks in the courtyard. Come meet your neighbors," because I just thought that it was a good idea. So much stuff was happening last summer. You know, I live in Chicago, so there was a lot of. Uh, Harold is playing with his toy now because he has to be playing with something while I'm recording. That's what we have to do because it would either be recording or I'm getting on a Zoom call. He's got to go play. Having a boy dog is really something, I'll tell you that. Harold! Oh, here's Harold. Hi. So, what I was doing was made a flyer, I put it out. I said, "Hey, I really want y'all to come out." Like I just put it out to anybody in the complex. Come hang out. Come meet your neighbors if you haven't already. And I did it twice and it was super successful, and we now have a thread together on Signal just so that we can talk about stuff that's happening in the neighborhood, because so much stuff was happening with ICE and just this administration in general. And so we just want I not we I wanted to know who was around me. Can I depend on these people in case something crazy happens? And thankfully, yes, everybody is very f ice around here, so it was very easy for us to be on the same accord with that. And but then also being on the Signal chat just to be like, "Hey, I have some extra peanut butter, do you want that?" Like, or I have these books that are in the lobby, you can pick these up if you want, like stuff like that, so that we're able to communicate in case something does happen. Because right now it's just you know casual and kind of fun to be able to talk to your neighbors over Signal, like, "Hey, did y'all hear that loud music down the street?" That kind of thing. But at some point, it might get hairy. And then that way you can just be like, "Hey, I saw X, Y, and Z just to let y'all know." That's one way for me to feel less anxious, to feel more comfortable and safe. And, I don't know all of my neighbors. I don't have all of them on the Signal chat, but I got 6 of them. So 6 out of 12 is pretty good. I'm going to do a couple more in the next week or so. Definitely this month and then into the summer, just so that we can all be on the same level. I remember when, I was coming up, my mom and my aunt used to talk about all the time in their teens living in Detroit how they were basically living in a village and were always talking about how everybody looked out for each other and everybody shared and everybody knew everybody. And I don't know why they thought that this was a good thing, but if one kid did something bad, they would get a whooping all the way down the street until they got home, like but it just speaks to like how close the community was, that it was very much, instead of it just being a neighborhood, it was more like a village. Knowing your neighbors, knowing your environment, if something were to happen, where you are you able to navigate, your city, your town without a map, without GPS? I mean, like, I remember this is how old I am. I remember having a paper map in my car, like, with no GPS, not even printed out MapQuest stuff. Having to know your directions. I'm lucky that I live in a city with a grid. Essentially it's just like north, south, east, west. It's very easy, and then the lake is east, and it's easy. It just really would be advantageous to be able to know where you are, where how to navigate where you are in space, basically where you are in your town. And if you had to get to a friend's house, can you get there without digital navigation, without satellites, essentially? So it really sucks that we have to like try to figure all of this out, but this is what we have to do. And it helps you be more focused. For me, again, it helps me be less anxious. It helps me be able to do a thing and not have to fret. If you got it all together, you don't have to fret, right? So it's one way to be prepared. And that's really all we're trying to do. It doesn't have to be fascist government. It can also just be an emergency of any kind. So, oh, Harold, we're heading into some interesting and difficult times. And I am very much the kind of person who believes in the hope of people. I know that it's difficult to imagine a world where um, things don't work the way that we're used to. But when the chips are down, when the going gets rough, you gotta be able to figure all of that out without panicking. And if you are lucky enough to have friends, if you're lucky enough to have people on your side, you can obviously get them also involved, so that you all are on the same accord, that you're all understanding what it is that is at stake, especially for folks who are disabled in some way. They have to be able to rely on their groups and their friends and their network in order to stay safe. And we certainly don't want to leave disabled folks or elders behind when we have to think about these very scary but true realities. So, yeah, prepping looks like a bunch of different things. So, on that note, if you have any ideas about what prepping looks like, which I know that I'm skipping a bunch of stuff, please put those in the comments below, and talk amongst yourselves about what that looks like, and what that might look like for you, what that might look like for a community, what that might look like for an entire town or city even. What things have you done to prep? Are you even thinking about that? Is this something that just came to your mind because I'm talking about it? It's just because gas is $6. I don't have a car, but I know that's expensive. We got to be able to carpool and share food, grow food. I know a lot of people are starting to grow food now, so that's really important because a lot of people love gardening anyway. So if there are resources that you know of that would help people be able to prep, that also was very helpful. So yeah, that's all I really wanted to say today. Um, Again, if you have any other questions, if you have questions about anything that I talked about today, if you have questions about me being a chatterbox or me being a designer or illustrator, please reach out to me. You can get in my DM, you can go to my website, go to my brand new beautiful website, and message me there. But other than that, thank you so much for watching. Yes, what do you want to say, Harold? Nothing? Okay. Like, share, subscribe, yada, yada, yada. All of those good things. But anyway, thank you so much. And I'll see you soon. Good luck. May the odds be ever in your favor.